Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie. These are names we instantly connect with unimaginable wealth. At their peaks, each controlled fortunes of over $200 billion. But what if I told you that none of them, not even close, could rival the wealth of a king who lived 700 years ago in West Africa? His name was Mansa Musa, and historians estimate that at his height, he controlled nearly half of the known world's gold supply. By today's standards, his fortune would be worth hundreds of billions, perhaps even more than every modern billionaire combined. Yet outside of Africa, few people have ever heard his name. This is the story of the richest man in history, how he rose to power, how his wealth reshaped entire economies, and how his legacy compares to the other titans of fortune across time. When we talk about the richest people in history, it's not always a simple comparison. Wealth in ancient times didn't look like today's billionaires with bank accounts, stock shares, or rocket companies. Instead, rulers measured their fortune in land, resources, and the power to tax and control trade. For Rome's Crassus, it was endless estates. For Rockefeller, it was oil. For Jeff Bezos, it's global e-commerce. So how do we compare them fairly? Historians look at relative wealth, how much of the world's economy a single person controlled in their lifetime. By that measure, Mansa Musa stands in a category of his own. In the 14th century, he ruled over the Mali Empire, a land rich beyond imagination. His kingdom sat on the world's largest gold fields, and during Musa's reign, it's estimated that he personally controlled nearly half of all known gold reserves on Earth. That level of dominance would make him not just wealthy, but economy-shaping, able to tilt the financial balance of entire regions with a single act. Before we dive deeper into Musa's story, let's look at some of history's other contenders. Men whose names are forever linked with fortune, power, and influence. Long before Mansa Musa's gold caravans dazzled the world, history was filled with rulers and magnates whose fortunes seemed limitless. One of the first names often mentioned is Marcus Licinius Crassus, the Roman general and politician. Crassus was so wealthy that Romans joked, no man was rich until he could fund his own army. His fortune came from ruthless real estate dealings, buying the homes of desperate citizens during fires, then sending his private fire brigade to save only his new properties. By some estimates, Crassus controlled the wealth of entire provinces, making him Rome's richest man. But even Crassus paled compared to the imperial scale of Augustus Caesar, Rome's first emperor. Ruling at the dawn of the Roman Empire, Augustus effectively held the wealth of the state in his hands. Scholars suggest that in modern terms, his control might equal over $4 trillion, though much of it was tied to the empire itself, not his private purse. Still, his grip on the Roman treasury made him one of history's wealthiest rulers. Meanwhile, far from Rome, Emperor Shenzong of the Song dynasty in China reigned during one of the wealthiest periods of Chinese history in the 11th century. The Song dynasty pioneered paper money, booming trade, and innovations that made China the economic powerhouse of the medieval world. The emperor's revenues alone would dwarf the fortunes of medieval Europe combined. And then, of course, there is Genghis Khan. His empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Europe. Yet Genghis's wealth is harder to measure. Unlike Musa or Augustus, he did not hoard gold. His riches lay in land, tribute, and control of trade routes. In practical terms, he He may have controlled more resources than anyone in history, though not in a personal fortune he carried with him. These figures shaped economies, empires, and entire civilizations. And yet, all of them combined cannot quite match the story of the man we turn to next. A king from West Africa, whose pilgrimage changed the very value of gold itself, Mansa Musa. In the early 14th century, in the heart of West Africa, a man rose to power who would be remembered as the richest individual in history. His name was Mansa Musa. He inherited the throne of the Mali Empire in 1312. At its height, Mali stretched across vast portions of modern-day Mali, Senegal, Niger, Guinea, and Mauritania. More importantly, it sat on top of the world's richest gold fields. Historians estimate that under Musa's reign, Mali controlled almost half of the known world's gold reserves. Imagine if one man today controlled every other ounce of gold on Earth. That was Musa's reality. But Musa's wealth was not locked away. It was active, visible, and transformative. Mansa Musa's fortune would soon become legend, a pilgrimage that would astonish the world. His most famous act was his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. He didn't travel like a humble pilgrim. He traveled like a force of nature. Musa's caravan reportedly included 60,000 people, among them soldiers, officials, and servants. 12,000 slaves marched with him, each carrying gold bars. He brought hundreds of camels loaded with gold dust and gifts. Along the way, Musa's generosity became legend. In Cairo, he gave away so much gold to the poor, to merchants, and to rulers that he accidentally caused a financial crisis. The sudden flood of gold into the Egyptian economy devalued the metal for over a decade. One man's charity literally changed the economy of an entire region. But Musa's legacy was not just about displays of wealth. When he returned to Mali, he invested heavily in his empire. He built mosques, libraries, and universities. The city of Timbuktu became a beacon of learning, attracting scholars, poets, and architects from across the Islamic world. The great Jinguariba Mosque in Timbuktu, still standing today, was commissioned by Musa. Under his patronage, Timbuktu's libraries held hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, making it one of the greatest centers of knowledge in the medieval world. Musa was not simply rich. He was a builder of civilization. His fortune reshaped not only Mali, but also the cultural and intellectual map of Africa and the Islamic world. But how does his wealth compare to other titans across history, and even to the billionaires of our own time? To answer that, we need to place Musa side by side with the Rockefellers, the Bezoses, and the Musks. Today, we measure billionaires in dollars, their fortunes tracked on real-time indexes. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos regularly top the charts at over $200 billion each. Rockefeller, in his time, amassed a fortune worth about $400 billion in today's money when adjusted for the US economy. But Mansa Musa? His fortune is more difficult to calculate, yet by most scholarly estimates, it dwarfed them all. Historians suggest Musa controlled a personal fortune worth the equivalent of $400 to $600 billion, with some estimates pushing even higher. To put this into perspective, when Musa passed through Cairo in 1324, the amount of gold he spent and distributed was so overwhelming that it caused a decade-long drop in the value of gold across North Africa and the Middle East. No modern billionaire, no matter how extravagant, has ever destabilized a currency on that scale. What makes Musa stand apart is not just raw numbers, but the percentage of the world's economy he controlled. In the 14th century, the Mali Empire's gold accounted for nearly half of global supply. That would be like one man today owning half of all oil reserves, half of all tech companies, and half of all banks combined. Even when compared to ancient titans like Augustus Caesar or Genghis Khan, Musa's wealth is unique because it was both personal and liquid. His gold wasn't just the empire's, it was his to spend, give, and build with. And build he did, with cities, mosques, and centers of learning that would outlive him for centuries. But Musa's legacy wasn't only about money. His fortune became a tool to create cultural and intellectual wealth, treasures far more enduring than gold. Mansa Musa's fortune was staggering, but what made him truly legendary was how he used it. After returning from his pilgrimage, Musa poured wealth into his empire. He built mosques, schools, and libraries across Mali, transforming cities like Gao and Timbuktu into world-renowned centers of learning. The jewel of this legacy was the Jinguareba Mosque of Timbuktu, constructed by the Andalusian architect Abu Ishaq al-Sahili, brought back by Musa from his pilgrimage. Made of mud brick and wood, it still stands today as a testament to his vision. But Musa's greatest gift was not architecture, it was knowledge. Under his reign, Timbuktu blossomed into a cultural hub. Thousands of manuscripts were copied, covering theology, astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and poetry. At its height, the libraries of Timbuktu contained more works than many European universities of the time. Musa's investments drew scholars from across North Africa and the Middle East. Timbuktu became a beacon of intellectual exchange, linking sub-Saharan Africa with the broader Islamic world. Religion also shaped Musa's legacy. A devout Muslim, his pilgrimage demonstrated Mali's place in the wider Islamic community. Yet his reign blended Islamic faith with African traditions, producing a unique cultural synthesis that defined the region for centuries. In the end, Mansa Musa's true wealth was not just measured in gold. It was measured in the ideas, institutions, and knowledge that flourished under his patronage. His fortune built more than monuments, it built a civilization. But empires rise and fall, and Musa's Mali was no exception. Within a few generations, pressures from rivals, shifting trade routes, and internal struggles began to erode Mali's dominance. After Mansa Musa's reign, Mali remained a wealthy and powerful empire, but the Golden Age could not last forever. By the 15th century, shifting trade routes began to bypass Mali's cities. Rivals like the Songhai Empire rose to power, seizing territories and cutting off Mali's control of the gold trade. Internal struggles and succession disputes further weakened the empire. Slowly, the empire that once dazzled the world began to fragment. Timbuktu remained a center of learning, but Mali's political dominance faded into memory. And yet, the legend of Mansa Musa endured. His pilgrimage became part of global lore, depicted in maps by European cartographers who placed him on thrones of gold at the edge of Africa. His wealth and generosity were remembered not just as a measure of riches, but as a symbol of Africa's role in shaping the medieval world. Today, he is celebrated as more than the richest man in history. He is remembered as a builder of knowledge, a patron of faith, and a reminder that Africa's past holds stories as grand and world-shaping as any empire of Europe or Asia. Mansa Musa's empire may have declined, but his name remains immortal, the king whose fortune still eclipses all others. Mansa Musa's story is more than just a tale of wealth. It's about how power, faith, and vision can shape civilizations. From his golden caravans to the libraries of Timbuktu, he remains a symbol of Africa's brilliance in the medieval world. But what do you think? Was Musa's fortune truly greater than today's billionaires? And which matters more, the gold he gave away or the knowledge he helped preserve? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this journey through history, make sure to subscribe to Forgotten Chronicle HQ and ring the notification bell.